Let us study about the orbital cavity. The orbital cavity, it is a pyramidal space or paired pyramidal cavity which is situated on either side of the root of the nose. Now this pyramidal shaped cavity, it has an apex and a base and it has the four walls. Now the apex which is directed backward, that is near to the optic canal, and the base of this orbital cavity is represented by the orbital margin. Now in this session, we are going to study about the boundaries of the orbital cavity and the content of the orbital cavity and the orbital fascia and its communication. First, we will move to the boundaries of the orbital cavity. Since we already studied this orbital cavity is a pyramidal shaped space, it has an base, apex, and four walls. That is, this is the base, and the apex is directed behind, and it has four walls, that is, medial wall, lateral wall, roof, and a floor. Now we will study in detail about all these boundaries. First, we will move to the roof of the orbital cavity. This is the roof. Now this has four walls, that is roof, floor, medial wall, and the lateral wall. And the roof of the orbital cavity is formed by the following bones. The first one is the frontal bone, orbital plate of frontal bone. This is, and the second one is the lesser wing of sphenoid. And over this roof there are some landmarks are present, that is they are, the first one is the fossa for lacrimal gland, which contains the lacrimal gland on the orbital fat, and the second one is the trochlear fossa that gives insertion for the tendinous pulley of superior oblique muscle, and the third one is the supraorbital notch that allows the supraorbital nerves and vessels to pass through, and the fourth one is the optic foramen, which is located at the posterior most part of the orbital cavity on the roof, and that transmit the optic nerve and ophthalmic artery to pass through. Now we will see over there in diagram the number one, that is the first landmark is the fossa for lacrimal gland, which is present on the anterolateral part of the roof of the orbital cavity that contains the lacrimal gland and the orbital fat. And second one is the trochlear spine, which is present over the anteromedial angle of the roof of the orbital cavity that gives insertion for the pulley of superior oblique muscle. And the next one is the optic canal, which is situated at the posterior part of the roof of the orbital cavity. This allows the optic nerve and ophthalmic artery to pass through. And the next one is the supraorbital notch, which is allowing the supraorbital nerves and vessels to pass through. This is about the roof of the orbital cavity. The roof of the orbital cavity is formed by the following bones. One is frontal bone, another one is lesser wing of the sphenoid bone, and the roof shows the following landmark. One is fossa for lacrimal gland, trochlear spine, optic canal, and the supraorbital notch. Next is about the medial wall of the orbital cavity. See, this is the medial wall of orbital cavity. This medial wall of the orbital cavity is the thinnest wall, and that separates the nasal cavity from the orbital cavity. And this medial wall is formed by the following bones from anterior to posteriorly. They are the frontal process of maxilla, lacrimal bone, orbital plate of ethmoid, and a small part of body of the sphenoid bone. So these are the bones which are helps in forming the medial wall of the orbital cavity. The bones are, one is frontal process of maxilla, lacrimal bone, ethmoid bone, and the body of sphenoid. And landmarks over the medial wall are, one is the lacrimal fossa. The lacrimal fossa contains the lacrimal sac. See, this is the lacrimal fossa, which is bounded anteriorly by the anterior lacrimal crest and posteriorly by the posterior lacrimal crest. And this lacrimal fossa contains the lacrimal sac. and the second and third is anterior ethmoidal foramen and posterior ethmoidal foramen. See, junction between the medial wall and the roof of the orbit, we have the two foramens, that is anterior and posterior ethmoidal foramen. Through this foramen, the orbital cavity gets communicated with the anterior cranial fossa, and this two foramens allows the anterior and posterior ethmoidal vessels and nerves to pass through. Anterior ethmoidal foramen allows anterior ethmoidal nerve and vessels to pass through, and the posterior ethmoidal foramen allows posterior ethmoidal nerves and vessels to pass through. So the landmark over the medial wall of the orbital cavity is the lacrimal fossa, which contains the lacrimal sac, anterior and posterior ethmoidal foramen, allowing the anterior and posterior ethmoidal nerves and vessels to pass through. Then the next one is about the floor. The floor of the orbital cavity, it is roughly triangular, and that is formed by the following bones. One is the orbital plate of maxilla. Second one is the orbital surface of zygomatic bone, and the third one is the orbital plate of palatine bone. So the floor of the orbital cavity is formed by the following three bones. One is the orbital plate of maxilla, and the orbital surface of zygomatic bone, and the orbital plate of palatine bone. And this floor is marked by the infraorbital groove, infraorbital canal, and the infraorbital foramen. So this structure allows the infraorbital nerves and vessels to pass through. The floor, the landmark over the floor is infraorbital groove, infraorbital canal, and the infraorbital foramen that allows the infraorbital nerves and vessels to pass through. Then the next one is about the lateral wall. The lateral wall of the orbital cavity, it is the strongest wall, and this is formed by the following bone. One is frontal bone, and the greater wing of sphenoid, and the zygomatic bone. So this lateral wall separates the orbital cavity from the temporal fossa and the middle cranial fossa. And see here, the floor, it separates the orbital cavity from the maxillary air sinus, and the roof of the orbital cavity separates the orbital cavity from the anterior cranial fossa. So the lateral wall of the orbital cavity, that is thickest and strongest wall, and that is formed by the frontal bone and the greater wing of sphenoid and the zygomatic bone. And the landmark over the lateral wall is the Whitnell's tubercle. This is the frontozygomatic suture. Just below to this frontozygomatic suture is the location of the Whitnell's tubercle. Now this Whitnell's tubercle, which gives attachment to the lateral palpebral ligament, check ligament of lateral rectus muscle, suspensory ligament of eyeball, and the lateral levator palpebral muscles, the superiorus muscle, levator palpebrae superiorus muscle. So the Whitnell's tubercle, which gives attachment to the following structures. One is lateral palpebral ligament, check ligament of lateral rectus muscle, suspensory ligament of eyeball, and the levator palpebrae superioris muscle. So the landmark over the lateral wall is the Whitnell's tubercle and its attachment. Then it also the lateral wall also presents small foramens. See here, it is also present small foramens, that is the zygomaticofacial and the zygomaticotemporal foramen, that allows the zygomaticofacial and the zygomaticotemporal nerves to pass through. So the lateral wall, it has the following landmark. One is Whitnell's tubercle, another one is small foramens like zygomaticofacial and zygomaticotemporal foramen. That is about the lateral wall. Next, see here, this are the bones which are forming the boundaries for the orbital cavity. Totally there are 7 bones which contributes in forming the boundaries. That is, one is frontal, then the second one is sphenoid and zygomatic, maxilla, then ethmoid, lacrimal, and ethmoid. So the palatine bone. These are the bones, that is frontal, sphenoid, zygomatic, maxilla, lacrimal, ethmoid, palatine bones. These are the 7 bones mainly contributing for the formation of the medial, lateral, roof, and the floor for the orbital cavity. Then the next we will study about the orbital margin. The base of the orbit is represented by the orbital margin. See the anterior, the open part of the orbit is the base, and that base is bounded by the four orbital margin. One is supraorbital margin, then inferior orbital margin, medial orbital margin, and lateral orbital margin. Now the supraorbital margin is formed by the frontal bone, and this supraorbital margin is marked by an supraorbital notch or foramen. This foramen is located on the supraorbital margin at the junction of lateral 2/3 and the medial 1/3 of the margin, and this allows the supraorbital nerves and vessels to pass through. Then the infraorbital margin, which is formed medially by the maxilla, laterally by the zygomatic bone, and this just below to the infraorbital margin is the location of the infraorbital foramen. Now this infraorbital foramen allows infraorbital nerves and vessels to pass through. So the supraorbital margin is formed by the frontal bone. It is marked by the supraorbital notch or foramen, allows supraorbital nerves and vessels to pass through. The infraorbital margin, which is medially formed by the maxilla, laterally by the zygomatic bone, and just below to this infraorbital margin is the location of the infraorbital foramen on maxilla, and that allows the infraorbital nerves and vessels to pass through. Medial orbital margin is formed by the frontal bone and the maxilla, and lateral orbital margin is formed by above by the zygomatic process of the frontal bone and the frontal process of the zygomatic bone, united by an suture called frontozygomatic suture. So laterally it is formed by the frontal and the zygomatic bone. So this orbital margin, it gives attachment to the orbital septa. This is about the base of the orbit. Next we will move to the apex of the orbit. Apex of the orbit, it is orbital apex is located at the posterior end of the orbit, and where all these four walls they converge, and the apex of the orbit is represented by the optic canal and the superior orbital fissure. It is marked by two orifices, one is optic canal and the superior orbital fissure. So that's all about the boundaries for the orbital cavity. For boundaries, you should write about the floor, roof, lateral wall, medial wall, and the base and apex. Now next we will move to the fissures and foramens present over the orbital cavity. Now the first and foremost foramen is the optic canal. Now this optic canal is situated at the posterior end of the, that is, it is situated at the posterior most part of the roof of the orbital cavity, and this through this optic canal the orbital cavity gets communicated with the middle cranial fossa. See, this is the optic canal, this is middle cranial fossa. The orbital cavity is communicated with the middle cranial fossa through this optic canal. Now this optic canal allows the optic nerve and ophthalmic artery pass through. Optic nerve along with meninges and ophthalmic artery to pass through, and the boundaries for the optic canal, medially it is bounded by the body of sphenoid, laterally it is bounded by the lesser wing of sphenoid. See, this is the lesser wing of sphenoid and this is the greater wing of sphenoid. This is body of sphenoid. Now between the lesser wing and the body of sphenoid is the optic canal, and this allows the optic nerve and ophthalmic artery to pass through. The next one is superior orbital fissure. This is an important short note question. The superior orbital fissure, which is also called as an sphenoidal fissure, and the definition for the superior orbital fissure is between the lateral wall and the roof of the orbital cavity, a comma-shaped gap is called the superior orbital fissure. So, superior orbital fissure, it is a comma-shaped gap which is present between the posterior part of the lateral wall of the orbit and the roof of the orbit. Now, next is about the communication. Through the superior orbital fissure, it communicates with the middle cranial fossa, and this superior orbital fissure is bounded by, above it is bounded by the, see, this is the middle cranial fossa and this is the body of sphenoid, and this one is the lesser wing and this is the greater wing of sphenoid, and see, this between the lesser wing, greater wing and the body of sphenoid is a comma-shaped gap which is called the the superior orbital fissure. Now the superior orbital fissure, it has the following boundary. Above it is bounded by the lesser wing of sphenoid, below it is bounded by the greater wing of sphenoid, medially it is bounded by the body of sphenoid. So for superior orbital fissure, first one is about definition. This is an comma-shaped gap which is present between the lateral wall and the roof of the orbital cavity, and through the superior orbital fissure, the orbital cavity communicates with the middle cranial fossa. Then the third one is boundary. It is bounded above by the lesser wing of sphenoid, below by the greater wing of sphenoid, medially by the body of sphenoid. Next, this along the lower margin, over the lower margin on the medial part, there is a tubercle present, and that tubercle which gives attachment to the common tendinous ring. See here, this is called the common tendinous ring, and see this is the superior orbital fissure, and along its lower margin on the medial part, it gives attachment to this common tendinous ring. See that common tendinous ring is enclosing this optic canal also. Now this common tendinous ring, it gives origin to the extraocular muscles. It gives origin to extraocular muscles. When because of the attachment of this common tendinous ring, see, this is the common tendinous ring which is giving attachment to the origin to the extraocular muscles, and because of this common tendinous ring, this superior orbital fissure, that is the comma-shaped gap, which is divided into three compartments. The medial most is the medial compartment, and within this is common tendinous ring is the intermediate compartment, and this one is the lateral compartment. See here, this is the medial compartment, this is the intermediate compartment, and this one is the lateral compartment. Now the next one is structures passing through this superior orbital fissure. In the medial compartment, the structure passing is the inferior ophthalmic vein. Through the medial compartment of the superior orbital fissure, inferior ophthalmic vein passes, and in the intermediate compartment, the structure passing are that the superior division of oculomotor and the inferior division of oculomotor nerve, mesociliary nerve, and the abduction nerve. So these are the structures which are passing through the intermediate compartment of superior orbital fissure. Now this lateral compartment of that is superior orbital fissure allows superior ophthalmic vein to pass through trochlear nerve, frontal nerve, lacrimal nerve, and the recurrent meningeal branch of ophthalmic artery. So these are the structures which are passing through the lateral compartment. And see here, this is the optic canal which is allowing the optic nerve and the ophthalmic artery to pass through. Now what are the structures which are passing through the superior orbital fissure means, because of this common tendinous ring attachment, the superior orbital fissure is divided into three compartments: medial compartment, intermediate compartment, and the lateral compartment. Medial compartment allows inferior ophthalmic vein to pass through. The intermediate compartment allows upper and lower division of oculomotor nerve, nasociliary nerve, and abduction nerve. And the lateral compartment allows superior ophthalmic vein, trochlear nerve, frontal nerve, lacrimal nerve, and the recurrent meningeal branch of ophthalmic artery. So these are the structures passing through the superior orbital fissure. Then the next one is applied anatomy for the superior orbital fissure. If there is any fracture over the superior orbital fissure, all these cranial nerves are involved. See, when there is fracture at the site of the superior orbital fissure, there will be involvement of all the cranial nerves, which result in diplopia, ophthalmoplegia, exophthalmos, and ptosis. This is about the superior orbital fissure. You should write about the definition and what are its communication, then boundary, structure passing through it, applied anatomy for your short note question. Then the next one is about the inferior orbital fissure. See, this inferior orbital fissure, it is also called as sphenomaxillary fissure. See, this is the lateral wall, and this one is the floor of the orbital cavity. Between the lateral wall and the floor of the orbital cavity, we got another one gap which is called the inferior orbital fissure. Now this inferior orbital fissure is bounded medially by the maxilla, laterally by the greater wing of sphenoid, and anteriorly it is closed by this zygomatic bone. So the boundary for the inferior orbital fissure is medially it is bounded by the maxilla laterally bounded by the greater wing of sphenoid, and this anteriorly it is closed by the zygomatic bone. Now this inferior orbital fissure, it allows the following structures to pass through. They are the maxillary nerve, and the second one is zygomatic branch of zygomatic nerve, that is again a branch from maxillary nerve, and the orbital branch of pterygopalatine ganglion, orbital branch of pterygopalatine ganglion, and the inferior ophthalmic vein. So these are the four structures which are passing through this inferior orbital fissure. First one is maxillary nerve, second is zygomatic nerve, and third one is inferior ophthalmic vein and the orbital branch of pterygopalatine ganglion. So these are the structures which are passing through the inferior orbital fissure. Next one is about the connective tissue septa. Apart from this fissures and foramens, there are also other foramens which are present over the orbital cavities. They are the anterior and posterior ethmoidal foramen, through which the orbital cavity gets communicated with the anterior cranial fossa, and that allows the anterior and posterior ethmoidal nerves and vessels to pass through. Then the next one is about the supraorbital notch that allows the supraorbital nerves and vessels to pass through, and the infraorbital foramen that allows the infraorbital nerves and vessels to pass through. So these are the communications of this through the left one thing, through the inferior orbital fissure, the orbital cavity gets communicated with the pterygopalatine fossa and the infratemporal fossa. So the inferior orbital fissure, it gets through this, the orbital cavity gets communicated with the pterygopalatine fossa and the infratemporal fossa. That's all about the foramens and the fissures which are related to the orbital cavity. Next, we will move to the connective tissue systems, that is periorbita, orbital septal system, and Tennant's capsule. Now, this periorbita, which is also called as orbital fascia or orbital periosteum, that surrounds the that forms the periosteum for the orbital cavity, and this gets loosely adherent to the bones, and it can be easily strip off. And see here, this is the orbital periosteum. This one is called the orbital periosteum, which is loosely connected to the surrounding bones, and this can be easily strip off. And this periorbita or the orbital fascia, it is posteriorly continuous with the dura mater, and anteriorly it continues with the periosteum lining over the orbital margin. And see near the periosteum, it has a gap over the infraorbital fissure, and that is closed by a smooth muscle called orbitalis muscle. So this is about the orbital fascia or the orbital periosteum or periorbita. This periorbita, it forms the periosteum of the orbital cavity, and that gets loosely attached to the bones, and this can be easily strip off. And anteriorly it is continuous with the periosteum lining the orbital margin. Posteriorly it continues with the dura mater. Next one is about the orbital septa. See here, this red color is called the orbital septa. Near the orbital margin, this periosteum, it sends and flap-like continuation into the eyelids that forms the orbital septa. See near the orbital margin, this periosteum, it sends and flap-like continuation into the upper and lower eyelid that forms the orbital septa. Next is about the Tennant's capsule, which is also called as an bulbar fascia. This is an important short note. Now, this Tennant's capsule or the bulbar fascia, it is a thin, loose, membranous sheath that encloses the eyeball, except the cornea region. So, now this is extending from the optic nerve to up to the sclerocorneal junction. This is enclosing the, not only this is enclosing the eyeball, but it is also extending up to the optic nerve. And now this Tennant's capsule, which gets separated from the sclera, that is the outer layer of the eyeball, by an episcleral space. So first, what is the definition for this means? This is a thin, loose membranous sheath that is covering the eyeball except the cornea, which is extending up to the orbit. So now the extension of the Tennant's capsule, it is extending from the optic nerve to the sclerocorneal junction. So next is about the Tennant's capsule is pierced by the following structures, that is short ciliary nerves and vessels, and it also pierced by the tendon of extraocular muscle. It is also pierced by the tendon of extraocular muscles. First, what is its definition and how it gets separated from the sclera, that is by an episcleral space. And this Tennant's capsule is pierced by what are the structures, that is short ciliary nerves and vessels, and also by the tendon of extraocular muscles. Now this Tennant's capsule, it gives some of the expansions. See here, this is the Tennant's capsule, which is pierced by the that is tendons of extraocular muscles and also by the ciliary nerves and vessels. Now this gives Tennant's capsule, it gives some of the extensions like expansions like that is medial and lateral check ligament and the suspensory ligament of eye. So now we will move to that. See, these are the expansion of this Tennant's capsule. One is medial check ligament, another one is lateral check ligament, and the third one is suspensory ligament of eye. Now this medial check ligament, it is a strong triangular expansion that is extending from the sheath covering the medial rectus up to the lacrimal bone. And the next one is lateral check ligament, which is again a strong triangular expansion, which is extending from the sheath covering the lateral rectus to the zygomatic bone. And the third one is the suspensory ligament of eyeball or suspensory ligament of Lockwood, which is that is formed by the lower. This is the Tennant's capsule, which is covering the eyeball. The lower part of this Tennant's capsule gets thickened and forms the suspensory ligament, and the suspensory ligament is formed by the union of the margin of the sheath of inferior rectus and the inferior oblique with the medial and lateral check ligament. So these are the three expansions of this Tennant's capsule. So now for Tennant's capsule, you should write about the definition and from where to where it is extending, and then what are the structures piercing this Tennant's capsule and what are its expansion, the diagram. Okay, next is about the content of the orbital cavity. Now this orbital cavity, it contains mainly the eyeball, then its orbital fat, and the eyeball is moved by a muscles called extraocular muscles, and the vessels, that is both the ophthalmic artery, superior and inferior ophthalmic vein, and nerves, especially the second oculomotor nerve, trochlear nerve, abduction nerve, and the branches of ophthalmic nerves and sympathetic nerves, and the ciliary ganglion, lacrimal gland and lacrimal sac, and the orbital fat. So these are the contents of the orbital cavity. Now the orbital cavity mainly contains the eyeball and fascia, that is both orbital and bulbar fascia, and the extraocular muscles, then ophthalmic artery, superior and inferior ophthalmic vein, nerves, optic nerve, oculomotor nerve, trochlear nerve, abduction nerve, branches of ophthalmic nerve and sympathetic nerve, ciliary ganglion, lacrimal gland and lacrimal sac, and the orbital fat. So these are the contents of the orbital cavity. That's all about the orbital cavity, its boundary, communication, and the fascias, and the content of the orbital cavity. Thank you.